Thank you, Angel, indeed. And welcome, everyone. Happy hump day to you. Hope it's going well so far. Wonder what we got to talk about today. Oh, yes, gold and oil. That comes up with Ainsley. I think she's coming in. I haven't heard from her, so I am assuming that she will be in. And of course, Ash will be joining us in the next few minutes or so. But in the meantime, let's take a peek at the pound US dollar, which was a dud yesterday. And I don't think we've exited the range, have we? So we will be trading this. We do have a broken pivot scenario for the, well, weekly wise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th time. Yet it chose the 6th time, I think it was, to put in that incredible doji there, which of course knocked our breakout trade out of business yesterday. Let's see what happens today. Think I can put the long in. Now, again, the pivots are very, very close here, and not to be sneezed at. Yet, all of this price action gives me the idea that at some stage the price will go through here if it wants to go long, and will continue. Interesting scenario here if I analyze this particular currency pair. Beautiful trade line there, absolutely gorgeous. So I'll be expecting something to happen off that, depending on whether the breakout trade works or not. Might come back and have a look at pound US dollar. It looks interesting at that point, I would have to say. Happy Wednesday to you, Paul P, as well. Let's place the long anyway, because we can. I think 1.3892. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This candle will be the range. That's something that we will take note of. If the candle's the range, does it work less, or is it less effective than when we've got a clear range over 3 or even 5 candles? But again, that single candle is the range today. So let me revisit that. 1.3892, and the stop loss at this point will be 1.3868, but that may well change. So 1.3892. And again, if you've joined us for the first time, not only welcome to you, but please be careful with this this trade. It's not to be traded with any meaningful money. Why? Because we haven't proven it yet. In fact, we're dodging around all over the place, trying to get it to work. 389 something. Oh, God. 3892. 3892. There we go. And the stop loss, as yet, we do not know. But at this point, it's 1.3867, and it's bang on DS1. So those of you who are day traders or intraday traders, you'll know this is in a sticky situation with DS1 at the bottom and daily pivot, which has been tested and broken to the north side. 1.3867, we can just get ready to change that if need be. And it may well be need be. I'll keep my eye on that blue line there, which is the bid price. 1.3867. We've got 40 seconds remaining before the Open of London. Time drags when you're watching the clock, doesn't it? Absolutely awful. Placed a couple of orders this morning. Have they triggered? Don't think so. Neither has triggered. Both pound trades. Seems to be all about the pound for me at the moment. Pound CAD and pound Swiss, both short. Now, pound Swissy, of course, is an add to a trade we're already in and free trading. Pound CAD is a new one. Aussie CAD overnight hit our TP1, which is good. Righto, there we go. So 3867 is correct. We'll place that order. And now we'll place the short. I didn't pay any attention to how much money I had on that. I hope it was something like that, minuscule amount. 393867 and 393891. Can't remember. 3892. Rightio. What did I do? Invalid stop loss because I've got a buy stop. It's a sell stop. Try again. There we go. All righty. Now, as I said, analyzing this particular chart, and if we get a bigger picture, you can see that we've had a potential reversal bar, and we've had a lower low and potentially a lower high. So today will be important, actually. That potential lower high may well be the one that you want to trade by the end of the day. That's the weekly chart, of course. But that's how that looks to me. So I'm kind of bearish. That doesn't look terribly promising, however. It looks rangy there, doesn't it, really? Highs and lows all over the place. There's your range. I'll put it in so we've got something to visualize. Let's go with those two highs. Let's try that again. We'll go with those two highs and we'll go with those two lows. That looks pretty clear cut, doesn't it? So what are we looking for? We're looking for a bounce off the top and a lower high. Have we got the lower high? Maybe we do, and maybe we're off to the races here today. We shall see. No entry yet, to the best of my knowledge. Ooh, yes, we have been entered. Okay. Let's get rid of the... No, we haven't been entered. Oh, yeah, that's the buy. Delete the buy. Gone. And close the short at TP1. Now we only have to close 0.02. As I said, we're just play money, really. We need to work out where TP1 is, do we not? Hi, Hanan. TP1, what was the risk? It was 92. 38.67 to 92, 25 pips. So 12.5. Make that 12, yeah? 12 pips below entry would be at 38.55, if I'm not mistaken, which is there and a bit ambitious, one would think, but we'll see. And we won't worry about TP2. Well, yes, we will, because we might hit there. 50 pips will be 38.17. Way down here. That doesn't look right, does it? 67, 25, 50. Yeah, it's right. Right about there. I don't think I'd be letting it to go to there somehow. I'd be doing whatever I'm going to do at monthly pivot, because that would make sense. Let's see if we can get this thing fired up, hey? That would be good. So, okay, I am a bit bearish this pair. Maybe a bullish bar back to here would get me interested in trading that, actually. But let's not pontificate over that yet. We'll get to TP1 on this one first and then see what happens. Okay, as I said, 2 orders this morning. I'll just give them both to you. That one hasn't triggered yet, but looks like it's getting interested. That is pound CAD. And the entry that I have, which is not on my screen for some reason, I'm going to enter at 1.7195. And I've got a stop loss at 1.7277. That's for pound CAD. We're going to take first profit at 28 pips and close 50% as it says there. The other was, as I said, I'm very pound centric, and this will be a very similar trade, not the same, but very, very similar on pound Swissy. And as you know, we're already in pound Swissy and free trading. This will be a second entry. Now, yesterday, what we got was a nothing event or nil event. So you've got a choice here. You could use exactly the same order, which is similar. Well, I've certainly got a similar stop loss, but I've moved my entry up to below this candle, which technically is an inside bar on that one by 0.1 of a pip, I've got to say, but technically it is an inside bar. So what we really do have here is a key reversal bar there. Question mark on that because the body is a little bit keen, if you like, but the criteria says on or near its low. That's how I determine the key reversal bar. That's near. I'll use that near factor. So that's a key reversal bar followed by an inside bar. And that, of course, means we trade the inside bar, which is pretty much what I've done here. So if you're interested in following that one, the entry is at 1.2679. The stop loss is at 1.2741. And I'm taking a net positive TP1 here. So in other words, it's more than one. Oh, it's not more than 1-to-1. It's just under 1-to-1. And then I'm going to move my stops to a net positive position, which will probably be just above. Although the weekly pivots there, I might reserve my analysis on that. And the only other one actually there were two yesterday, weren't there? Pound Swissy, which didn't trigger, Aussie CAD, which did trigger, and we've gone through TP1 here. We're on our way. Look, there is a danger here that this will be a higher low based on the base here. If that's the case, I may move stops to entry because that will terrify the bejeans out of me. Because if I see a close here on the daily chart that is bullish, and by that nature I mean it can still have a black body, but it's got a long tail to the downside, then that could very well mean that we've got a higher low, and it would not be a silly thing to see that bounce off here. If it goes through here, I think we're going to challenge these lows, and I think we're in good shape. I haven't really programmed a TP2 here at all, but I would think that area there would be of interest to me, 95.45. So another 50 pips to go before we need to do anything there, unless, as I say, that becomes a reversal bar. And in that case, I would move my stops to entry just to make sure it's a winning trade. That's about all I got, guys. At this point in time, I'll come back when Ash has told us all about what's happening with his day. G'day, mate.
Oh, hello, mates. Hello. Yeah, interesting open, actually. FTSE 100 flew out the traps this morning. I'll tell you, the one that I'm really interested, though, is the euro, euro dollar. And let's see what you think of this, because I like it for some downside. We got the FOMC later on, but the dollar has come out of the traps pretty well. Hold on, let me just make sure this chart is what we all should be looking at.
G'day, John. G'day, Lewis. G'day, David.
Yeah, let's have a look around. I think there's some interesting moves in the market this morning, particularly, as I say, the FTSE over some of the others, but also let's do a little link together. I think Bitcoin is interesting again. I don't know what did Shukri say about Bitcoin yesterday? Is he still quite bullish?
Gee whiz, that's 24 hours ago, mate. Hang on a second. What was he saying about Bitcoin? Yes, I think he was bullish. People in the room might prompt me to that because I really can't remember.
Okay.
He showed me the chart we were talking about. Actually, we were talking about we were talking about fake outs, and yes, we decided that the latest move was indeed a liquidity grab, and therefore it should push higher from there.
Now, so I've got a different opinion on Bitcoin.
To where
I
I
think
don't know.
I think it's going down, and I'll show
Mhm.
everybody why I think it's going down in a moment. But let's talk about this euro. So the euro dollar. Let's get started with this. I think this is an interesting one. We see a broader picture here of a head and shoulders pattern. And what's good about this is that we're at the top end of that right shoulder. The fundamentals from Europe are just not very good. You know, when we kind of compare the fundamentals with the eurozone versus most of the rest of the majors, and particularly against the dollar, they are weak. And I don't really hear, any arguments to suggest that Christine Lagarde would change her perspective on the euro. So I think that the euro is going to be under pressure. So I'm just looking to see whether there's an opportunity. Now I don't know what time frame everybody would choose to trade this on, but there's the head and shoulders pattern forming, and we're at the top end of that right shoulder here. So let's flick down some time frames and see what this is suggesting for us. We'll just duplicate this level here. Well, it's pretty good, doesn't it? It's a pretty nice line there. It's about there. You can see that the left shoulder has got some resistance here. This is why I've just moved that line down a little bit, and we're just under that level. So I think this is an interesting zone here. Going to the dailies.
I did exactly that analysis yesterday, and or was it the day before? It might have been the day before. When were you in? Were you in yesterday?
I wasn't in yesterday. Yeah.
Yesterday. And my channel is, or my head and shoulders is a little bit higher than yours because I've used the high of the bars rather than the open close.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've got
the reason I've moved it to that particular point is because of this area here on the head. So yeah, it could be a little bit higher up for sure. But what's interesting is that when we go to the dailies, we are at a level of resistance. You know, we've got 3 touches here, which looks pretty strong, and then we start to look at whether we got a channel, and I don't think that's clean enough, so I'm not going to use that. So we do have a trend line here by the looks of things. And let's have a look at the 4 hourly and draw some levels on the 4 hourly. That's where we are on the 4 hourly. So this is suggesting that we probably need to get through this low here, which would be below the trend line. If that trend line is right, you know, if I've drawn that the head and shoulders trend line correctly. But it looks like we need to get through this area here. Now, there's enough weakness here to suggest we could be coming through here. So the question really for everybody is, do you want to trade this a bit earlier, or do you want to wait for a break and a retest? And this is going to be down to what time frame you trade it on. If you trade on the shorter term time frames, getting in early is fine. Looking at this on a longer term time frame, you may not want to do that. Now, when we look at this on the hourly, I'm going to just get this down a little bit. The pattern we have is of a symmetrical triangle. So we've got this pattern. So there's always, well, there tends to be patterns within patterns, and that's what we have here. So we got this symmetrical triangle going on down here, which would also suggest that if that breaks down, that might even be at this stage. This is a buy zone. So I wouldn't be interested in trading down here in accordance to the hourly. Now, if that is to break down, that might see us down to this level. So that would be the target down there. So what we got? We got nice round number as well. Nice. Yeah, so I'll probably be looking at around about 120 level, mate, as a target. I think that looks pretty good. Now let's have a look at the 15. Now the 15 suggests here Now, if we bring in the pivots at this point, so it looks like this trend line is one we need to watch. And let's have a look at the pivots. Oops.
David, do have your questions, mate, and we will address those. No problem.
Yeah, it looks like around about the pivot, mate. I'm not sure whether we're going to get to the pivot, but it looks a bit steep when you look at the 15 like that, but that looks better. Coming up to that pivot would be good, later in the day. The issue obviously is the FOMC. There may well be a small grab for the weekly pivot down here as well, and I suspect we're coming there. And when you look at the dollar index, the dollar index is providing some upside, but it is at that weekly pivot as well. So maybe a little drift down initially might be on. But one of the reasons, there's two reasons I quite like the euro dollar. Now, the first thing is that the fundamentals in Europe are just atrocious. They're not atrocious, actually. That's not fair. PMIs are decent, but unemployment data is still pretty tepid. Trade balance is awful at the minute. There is a Brexit deal that needs to be ratified today by the European Parliament, and that might have some sway on what direction this goes in. And it really could be perceived as positive or negative. If they ratify the deal, maybe it's seen as negative because they could be giving up some of their power. If they refuse the deal, it could be seen as negative because we're back in kind of no deal Brexit kind of territory. So it's going to be a difficult one really to kind of have a think about what the signing of that deal would mean. But generally speaking, the Eurozone has got some weak numbers. Vaccine rollouts are still very, very, very low. They're lower than they should be, and the unemployment rate is still dangerously high in comparison to the last 2 years. We're at the top end of the range from the last 2 years. So it's a different picture in the US. Now, the other thing about the US is the bond yields. Now, let me see if I can bring in a chart of the bond yields just so you guys can see it. No, I don't know. Maybe I can't, but probably could look at Yahoo Finance, and that might be something that. Let's have a look at Yahoo Finance and see if we can find what's going on with the bond yields. But the bond yields have been rising this morning. I think they're around about 165, 1.65 in the basis point. So there is a suggestion of some dollar strength on that front as well. So there's a few things, mate. There's a few reasons I quite like the euro dollar trade. Now, when it comes to some of the other bits and pieces, now I'm just going to focus on Bitcoin just for a little while, and this is the reason I'm not keen to suggest that Bitcoin is going higher from this point. And if we look at it on the weekly, well, I think most of these things are bullish. I think the stock market is bullish. I think Bitcoin is bullish, and I think that the crypto market themselves is pretty bullish. But I just don't think it's here. Now, this has seen some pretty high volumes in this particular area here. Elon Musk sold a bit of his holding in Bitcoin recently. He put quite a bit of it on the market. And interestingly, it was the only thing that made Tesla profitable. He's not selling enough cars to be profitable, but selling Bitcoin actually made Tesla some money. So it was a genius move to buy when he did in many respects, just to kind of fluff up the balance sheet a little bit. But it's looking a little bit tenuous, I would suggest. So we are under some pressure here. Now, this is the chart that I think is the most interesting when we look at the dailies, because we are now looking at a potential lower high here. There's the high up there. There's a lower low here in comparison to this, definitely in comparison to this. And I wonder whether we're looking at a lower high here. And one of the reasons I'm bearish on Bitcoin for right now is that until we test this level here at 40,000, or this low here at 45, until we give it a genuine test, I think Bitcoin's under pressure. So I'd like to see it here before looking at the longs. Now that would suggest that if this is a left shoulder, it could take quite some time to play out. Now the other thing with it is that Bitcoin is a different beast. We know that. But if we treat it the same as other things, it is sensible to suggest that it needs just some channeling and just some floating around for a little while. And it does do it. Okay, we've just been on this parabolic run for quite some time. And I think the anticipation is that we just keep going. But I don't see why. Why wouldn't we mess about in this area, bounce off 45, go to 50, go to 55, come back to 45? Why wouldn't we bounce in this area for a period? Because, this is still an asset class like other things, and it does do it. Look at this period here. Right the way from April to July, it was just in this long channel. Now, obviously, there's nowhere near as much volatility or volume here, but it is still a long period of time where it just goes sideways. Now, we have been just going up and up and up and up and up. So why wouldn't we just, have a period where we could just go sideways in a wide range, to be fair? But why wouldn't we just go sideways? There are some issues with the crypto market right now, with regulation coming into play. Turkey are banning cryptocurrencies. And there is probably enough sticking their head above the parapet in the crypto market to suggest that regulation will probably come. Binance recently announced that they were going to start a digitized token to trade certain stocks, and I think the regulatory bodies have come down and said, well, you can't do that. You haven't applied for any licensing to be able to do that. But I'm pretty sure they've launched it already. So there are probably a few things where I still think the crypto market thinks it's beyond the boundaries of law, and at some point, I would suspect that it's going to get bitten. Now, I don't know when that will be, but I suspect it might well get bitten. So that's the Bitcoin market. Now, the correlation with the Nasdaq is also an aspect, and we've seen the Nasdaq just coming off a little bit over the last couple of days. Bit of a negative session yesterday with the Nasdaq from its all-time highs, and it is again starting to fall back a bit today. I did take a trade in the Nasdaq for a very short period of time yesterday, and I took the profit. But you can see here, there is a head and shoulders pattern here forming on the Nasdaq. Now, dollar strength will potentially push this down. I'm not sure whether we are going down before FOMC, but if the FOMC comes out and the statement is dollar bullish and we get some kind of hawkish tone, then be careful on the equities. The Nasdaq, as I said a few weeks ago, is probably the one indice that will get hardest hit. So I'm looking at the Nasdaq for some potential shorts. Now, while I'm building that case, I'm checking out the VIX, and the VIX has seen this big move to the upside, and then this potential bull flag forming here. Now, it's not by any stretch through the resistance zone that you can see here. So it might not actually come to fruition. But when you look at a little bit more deeply at the VIX and you see where the pattern is holding, when we look at the hourly, this is a buy zone just here. We're right on top of that buy zone. I'd like to see the VIX up here before the Nasdaq was to collapse. But if it did go through that area, then I think the Nasdaq short could be on. So really, at the minute, mate, I'm building a group of ideas that I'd quite like to trade. So I'd like to look for euro dollar short. I'd like to look for a Nasdaq short as well, and potentially gold. With the bond yields kicking up again, this is not good for gold. And I've been saying for a while that I'm not convinced about this move to the upside with gold. This is still in a downtrend. When you look at the weekly chart, this is still a low. It's still a lower high. It's another low, and we basically come back to retest this area here. So we're at the low, the first point of contact when we should be looking for potential short selling coming in here, and a bond yield does not help when it comes down to the gold market. So bond yield creeping higher, some potential dollar strength would also lead me to some weaker gold. So just to summarize, I'm looking for shorts in the euro, shorts in gold, and shorts in the Nasdaq right now. I can have a look at the pound dollar as well, because David was talking about that.
Yes, I said earlier on that I'm a little bit bearish.
Yeah, well, I wonder whether I'd be bearish too. I'd be bearish too, because if the overall kind of picture is for a stronger dollar, that means that all of these currencies are going to be under stress. Now, let's have a look.
Of course, my problem with that, as you know, is as soon as someone says stronger dollar, I get the shakes.
Yeah, me too, mate. Yeah, yeah, and it's I think it's a potentially a short-term grab. But that looks pretty good, doesn't it? When you kind of look at we're currently poking ourselves below this trend line. There was obviously, I think there was the opportunity there. Weekly pivot and daily pivot both right sandwiched on top of each other, sandwiched together, and that is going to provide some resistance. But looking down to get to this monthly pivot, I think is on. Now there is a one-to-one trade there right now. So if you believe that it's going to get to the monthly pivot before the daily or weekly pivot, then that does look pretty good. And the FOMC statement is going to be the thing to watch out for. But I quite like it, mate. I quite like it. I'm just having a look at. Just have a look to see if there's a trade on now, actually. Is there a trade on the pound dollar short here?
There was yesterday one for pound dollar short, but I chose to go with pound Swissy again rather than pound dollar. Key reversal bar, almost. It wasn't there, but one of those lower highs on the daily chart that I like to trade had a bullish body and a rejection of the previous swing. So I thought it was a nice opportunity yesterday to trade the pound short. It hasn't triggered yet.
Yeah, that is pretty good, actually. That does look pretty good. Let me just check the bigger picture just very, very quickly. Whew. I mean, it looks all right for that, and I wonder whether it'll get there. There's the problem with this is that you're trading right on a buy zone on the 4 hourly, because of this level down here. There's a little area of support there. So you'll be trading right into the buy zone there. If this pops up again, I might well be interested. I think I prefer at the higher end of the range.
Same.
Yeah. David, why would you go upside with this one just out of interest? Just so we can clarify what you're seeing. Ainsley's here. Oh, fantastic. Okay, brilliant stuff. Yeah, John, I agree with you. It probably won't be the last to ban it, but I wonder whether there's going to be some investigations going on first, and that could be enough to spook the crypto market. Let's bring Ainsley in, mate. Unless you've got any. In fact, do you want to make a comment on this pound dollar first, and then we'll bring Ainsley in.
Yeah, I did at the head of the show, so okay. I probably won't repeat that, except to say that I am bearish it today, and that's based. You want me to go through my chart because I'll exit before too much longer.
Yes, go for it. Yeah.
All right, let's do that, and I'll give you the reason why I'm bearish. And it is pretty much this simple. we are coming off the top of the range. And like I said, Monday's rejection bar there was potentially the lower high. The issue with that was, of course, trading, as you just mentioned, into the monthly pivot without a reasonable take profit. But, it was there. I chose pound CAD over that and pound Swissy over that. But yeah, completely there. And that's why I think we're headed down to here, because we have an established range. It's early days for the range, I must say. But if you're looking to trade ranges, as I do every single day of my life, then there's worse entries to take than underneath that daily bar with your stop loss above it, in my humble. As I said, I'm already trading that basically on pound CAD and pound Swissy, so I don't have an issue. So that's really the pound for me. The other opportunities I thought, and going back to the euro, if you fancy trading ABCs, then this is not the worst either. And the reason is we've taken out this low. So I think if you've got your entry here, first take profit just above the weekly pivot, it's almost a scalp, but I don't see anything wrong with that. And if you want to have a try at that, by all means do. I won't be taking that because I can't monitor it. I can't manage it because I won't be here. So if you want to take it, then entry there, stop loss there. Just give yourself a pip underneath there, take your profit there. Or you can just take some off the table there, get yourself safe in the market. And if this does go, and don't forget we do have the FOMC statement, if this does go, it could go a long way. You could get a free ride on that off a small time frame and a very small risk. So I would be considering that. If it's still an opportunity when I get back in front of the charts a little bit later, then happy days, I will look to trade it. I've given you the orders on, well, Aussie CAD's well into the trade, so can't give you that. I've given you the order on pound Swiss. I've given you the order on pound CAD. It's all about the pound today for me. And so, David, to answer your question, am I bearish the pound? Well, I've got 3 orders the pound short. So yes, I am. I am bearish the pound against the dollar, the CAD, and the Swissy. There's really not that much more, I don't believe. I think Euro Aussie is still topping that range, so I'm still looking for a lower high. That may well be it, but I'm not going to trade that bar, that's for sure, into the pivots. That's not going to work. So I'd probably like to see the pivots break and come back and retest them, give me that lower high, and then we can look to go short still on Euro Aussie. That's probably about it. The rest I think I've given you in my in the Telegram group and in my TTR session. So I will leave it at that and bid you guys adieu. Hello, eh?
Afternoon, chaps. How are we?
Oh, very good.
Top of the world. And
well, actually, you're in the bottom of the world, aren't you?
Well, I say that all the time. But if you stand on your head, Ainsley, everything comes into perspective.
Yeah, I've done that before today.
Aussie dollar short. I better answer this question first. Look, this is a potentially good setup, and I agree with your sentiment, and it has broken the pivot. So smaller time frames. Let me get rid of all this mess for you. We've been through all of that analysis weeks ago, and the reason why we thought it would go to the top of that range. Now we've got to look for a reason why it'll go to the bottom of that range. Well, not so much a reason, but an entry, because we're trading the range, obviously. Yes, we've got a little double top there in a small time frame, 4 hour wise. It's obvious really today what I'm going to say. I think Lewis and John, it was only Lewis who asked the question. And if I put a circle around that little area there, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So I want to see the daily pivot test. I wanted that to create a lower high, and then I want to go short. I don't think I can say anything other than that or be any clearer. I don't want to go short now, but I would like to go short off the daily pivot. Nice little rejection bar there, giving me the lower high off the double top. Perfect. That would be my entry. Could happen on any time frame. That's the 4 hour. You can monitor that anywhere on the hourly, 30 minute, whatever you choose. In fact, There may well be an opportunity to trade it. No, don't, I don't want to put you into that area, but there may well be an opportunity to trade this long if you keep your eyes open to the daily pivot. That trend line there looks interesting. If we were to break it, find that support level around about what 77.20-ish or something, and then get back above it, retest it on the way back, I think there's a trade to the daily pivot. Then look for your shorts up there. Is that good enough, Lewis? I hope so. So
I like that, mate. I think we're across the board. We're a little bit bullish on the dollar so far this morning, right?
Don't be ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think it has a little bit of a spurt and gets all excited, and then the US market opens and it's just like we're saying, what are you doing?
You think it's bearish still? Hey.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, I do.
Guys, there's a nice breakout for the FOMC. I can't go through it now, but your range is pretty much in here, and the highs, open close on the highs. So if you want to trade that as a breakout, go 15 pips above for the long, 15 pips below for the short. Make sure that's underneath the weekly pivot. Probably won't be with 15 pips. You got to get under there to get your entry. Have to. But if it sets up at that time, then that's what you want to do. Got to go, guys.
Yeah, you get yourself moving, mate. I will see you in the morning.
Quick question.
So
just a quick question. Sorry, Ash, are you coming up to Sydney this weekend?
I will be in Sydney on Saturday night and Sunday, then go on Monday.
Okay. I'll chat to you later.
Yeah.
We'll try and catch up.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, mate. See you soon, mate. See you tomorrow.
Happy days.
So, Ainsley, let's get down to gold to start with.
Because the thing is interesting.
What's been interesting?
Gold. It's been interesting.
It has. Yeah, it has. So I see the bond yield just kicking up a little bit again today.
Yeah. Like I said, don't get too excited with that.
So
it's only from the inflation point of view. When you've got CPI rate, your annualized inflation rate is what, 2.6%?
Yeah.
So you're looking at bond yields, but you need to look at the real value of that yield. And with an inflation rate, if you take that into consideration of 2.6%, it brings it back down to ugly.
Yeah.
Not negative. Yeah. I don't know where they landed last night. Because I'll tell you about the other little new shiny toy that I found to play with as well later. So, but gold at the moment, I'm going to nick a screen, share my screen.
Yeah, let's have a look what you're looking at, because I'm still concerned about this weekly trend on gold.
All right, so this is what I'm talking about on the weekly trend. And God love me, because I don't do channels. However, to put a bull flag into perspective, hang on, I'm just going to, because I've got to talk to you, and I keep talking to my screen. I've got two screens. I talk to you, Ash, and you're over there, and anybody.
Oh yeah, I have to do that. Yeah, you have to get it out of the way of what your charts are, don't you?
I'm not so bad where I'm constantly looking for the chat box.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah. Well, that is one of the problems with four screens, is that the chat box can be not only on one of those four screens, but then under any of the windows that are open on one of those four screens. So yeah, it's not easy. I used to have six. I used to have six screens.
Oh, look, and I got teenage kids who go, "No, you got so much open." And it's like, oh, leave me alone. I know where everything is.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? You get used to it.
You do. But you shouldn't have this open. You're slowing down. Oh, it's like, Anyway, you've got a few more years to go with that conversation, Ash.
Yeah.
And the talk back. Oh my goodness. Anyway,
so I'll have a lock on my door by then.
Anywho, so this is the channel that, I'm sure Jeff would be very proud of me putting those channel light, but for me it was a bull flag, major bull flag. So what we have had, and I'll just make this a little bit bigger so we can actually see it. Just Paul's complaint about, I'm you know, when you get used to things, we talked about things that you get used to, and I struggle with looking at MT4 because I only see one chart at a time. I know you can set it all up, but you have to flick through and all the rest of it. But for me, I can see all my 4 charts on one screen, and makes me happy. We all know about keeping Mama Bear happy. So what we've done here, we're at the top of this channel, and we also hit a big round number. We didn't hit it, we came really, really close. But what we did hit was R2, which is a monthly R2, which is a really, really strong level of resistance, and it bounced back down. It had a couple of cracks up there, by the way, before it came back down. Now, the other interesting thing that it will always do is once it's broken through a 50 EMA, it'll come back and retest. Especially when you've got this little technical setup, which if anybody knows is that's my 20 about to cross my 50, which is also known as a golden cross. Golden cross in itself on a technical chart is one of those, it's known as a long setup. So death cross is when a slower moving average, when the faster moving goes under the slower moving average, but when a fast moving average crosses above, it's known as a golden cross. It is also a sign, it is an indicator of a long setup, and it's normally when it comes back into that area. So it'll go through and retest and come back down. Yeah, I get your point about it's coming back up, and it has, all it's really done is retested again this level. But as I said, it's a really neat round number, and gold loves those lovely tight round numbers. Now at the moment we've got it bouncing off. If I get a close, and that bar for me will close, where is it, 7 o'clock tonight. If I get that back up, I've got another double bottom that's bouncing off this support. So at the moment, I mean, I got in on the higher low here, only a small position because it had so many false breakouts to the upside, to the downside, and just it was all over the place. It hasn't been a neat and clean ride, by the way, for where it is now. It's consolidated most of the beginning of the week. It's had a bit of a drift down. It's just doing that at the moment. Drifts down, drifts up, drifts down. It's really hard to peg. It's not a neat, clean, let's go from here to here, which is definitely my way of trading, which is let's go straight up.
Oh, yeah.
I prefer straight up. Yeah, let's get this over and done with, boys and girls. If we're going to do it, let's get on with the show here. Yeah. So I haven't had that at this stage. Now, gold seasonally probably won't look for another move up on the board until about June, July anyway. So at the moment, and last year as well, May was just torture. I was in a trade in May, and my holding cost got so much because it was just going sideways. Yeah. I had to close the trade down, because when my holding costs get to a point of being 1% of the profit, I take the trade and I close it, because if it goes against you, those holding costs certainly blow out pretty quickly. So it's very strategic. So that's what I'm looking at. Yeah, I've got a higher low. Yes, I've hit the higher channel, top end of the channel on the weekly. Yes, it's hit R2 on the monthly and a round number. And I expected a retracement from there anyway because of those levels. It's just where it goes. How far down? I don't know. I'm with Jeff on the US dollar analysis. I think you're just going to get those, fluffs of enthusiasm.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right, and I wouldn't really want to be involved in the dollar for a long period. But I wonder whether we do see a bit of a rally going on. Certain currencies I've got. I beg your pardon?
It seems to be US dollar spasmodic. Just seems a bit of a.
It is. But then if we kind of like, if we are looking at the US dollar in isolation, then it appears like to be, you know, the worst thing on the planet. But if we start looking and comparing it to some of the other currencies, then is the euro any better? I mean, the euro is an absolute dog at the minute. Some of the fundamentals coming out of Europe are atrocious, and Christine Lagarde doesn't seem like she's going to be curbing back anytime soon the stimulus package that. I beg your pardon?
She doesn't have to do anything at the moment. I think she just sits there and just goes, okay.
Yeah, she does, but surely that means that the euro ultimately is structurally weaker even than the dollar, even than the
What's it weaker though?
What's that?
She wants it weaker.
Yes, she does. She does want it weaker, but that's what I'm saying. When we're looking at the dollar, you know, the dollar is a terrible currency. It is in a terrible position. But when you sort of like say, comparatively speaking, is it as bad as all that? Okay, you're comparing it with gold. I get it completely. But if you compare it with the euro, actually the dollar doesn't look too bad in that front. And then you move on to the CAD. I mean, they're so highly correlated that if the dollar and if the Fed don't move, then chances are Canada's not moving either. So when it comes down to currency versus currency, fiat currency versus fiat currency, that's really the question I'm asking. Is the dollar that bad in comparison to the other fiat currencies, not in isolation?
Yeah. Time will tell, won't it?
Time will tell. I mean, I can't see the euro being the reserve currency of the world. You know, whether we go back to something else is obviously in question. But yeah, as I say, I don't see the euro taking the mantle from the dollar, and
no.
It could rally. I mean, what against gold? It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because something's going on here with gold. Gold and silver should probably be, you know, potentially 3 times their value. But there is obviously some manipulation going on, and what lifts that pressure point? You know, people started to rush into Bitcoin as the alternative to gold. Shine's come off a little bit of Bitcoin recently as well. You know,
well,
what is that?
That's the other thing, and that's an interesting point you raised, because there was an analysis done on Bloomberg the other night on this very topic. It was just like, why isn't gold rallying its socks off again? And they were just saying, well, is it in straight competition with Bitcoin? And they're saying, well, at the moment, Bitcoin has got a few issues, and regulatory. I mean, we've just seen what happened in Turkey, and that's really just the tip of the iceberg. And I've been saying it for a little while. It's just like, what's on the other side of this trade? I just don't know what's on the other side of the trade. And to your point, Elon Musk made 112 million dollars with his. He put 100. I
don't know. I think.
It's the only reason the company made any money was from the sale of the Bitcoin that he'd done. It had nothing to do with the core operation at all. Hadn't sold enough cars. And that is Dogecoin, dog, whatever you want to call it. It's a joke. It was a joke it was set up by the 2 ex-IBMers, and it was designed to be a joke. And it has market cap, or had a market cap last week of $50 billion. It was more than Ford and Kraft Heinz that actually produced something. So, hey, that isn't speculation. I'm not sure what you would call that.
Well, you know, yeah, absolutely. It's a difficult one. There's some definite use for this stuff, and this is why we don't see Ethereum breaking down in the same way as Bitcoin. But there's some definitely there's a use case for cryptocurrencies, and that is where we're going. And it really is what happens next to the crypto market. Do central banks, which would be a huge benefit, do central banks now step into the crypto market space? Which, as I say, they really should, because if you think about the stimulus money that was floating around the market, how much easier would it be for central banks to bypass? The concerning one is the commercial position more than anything else. I'd suggest they could bypass the retail banks and just go straight into a citizen's bank account, which means they get the money. Rather than having to go to the bank and the bank going, oh, well, we kind of not sure we can give you it all, and it being sort of stuck in the system for a period. So it makes a lot of sense for central banks to go into digital and to go into cryptocurrencies. And in some respects, they need the cryptocurrency space to iron out all the details for it. And then they go, right, awesome. Now we've got our model.
Exactly.
But so there's a big usage case. Somebody's just asking about the some time ago that seasonally the pound is weak during May onwards. Ben, let me give you the seasonal chart here.
Sell in May and go away.
Oh, I mean, you look at the statistics on that, Ainsley, and it's a bit of a misnomer, isn't it? I think it's more sell in June, but you can't say sell in June and go to the moon because it's a silly rhyme. Sell in May, go away is much better, it's much easier.
It works. It rhymes, doesn't it?
It rhymes. I think that's the only reason people say it. I think yes, it probably will be this year, just to kind of make an idiot out of me. But if you look at the data, sell in May and go away statistically is a bit of a misnomer. May isn't as weak a month as the rhyme would suggest.
No, it's one of those things you really got to watch, keep an eye on the ball. And seasonally for the pound, let me just have a
the pound is sell in May, walk away, by the way. I mean, I was talking about the equities, but yeah, pound is sell in May, walk away. Yes, there is a weak period coming from May right the way through to really to July. Right the way through to the start of July. There's a few kind of bounce points within that in around about June time, but from now until the start of June, the pound really is very, very weak, potentially. So if you look at the seasonal charts, then the pound would appear like a candidate. If you look at the COT data, the pound would appear like a candidate, both for shorting. And I think if you look at the price action, I don't know if you look at price action for the pound, Ainsley. I'm sure you do. It looks a bit weak to me as well. It looks.
Oh yeah.
Is that it there? Is it?
This is the pound I've got up on the screen now. So
right.
You've got no direction here, and look at that. And to look at the MACD, flat stitching center line. So that tells you absolutely no direction or cyclicity or momentum there at all. It's just sitting there. And for me, even though it's pointing up and it's telling me the downtrend on the 4-hourly is looking appealing, look where the ADX is. It's well below 25.
Yeah.
And both the DI plus and DI minus are pointing downwards. So to me, that tells me no trend, no trade. So, and because I enter on a 4-hourly chart and I get that, I won't touch that.
Is the third one along the weekly?
This is my weekly. Yeah. So you've had this and now you've got a higher low. If that low is taken out, you're down to the downside, aren't you?
That's what I like. See, I like the weekly charts. I mean, to try and get the trigger on the shorter term time frames, we might need to wait for that by the looks of things. But but that weekly chart does look interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. But just to quickly go over to oil. Oil's had a bit of an interesting. It was coming off at the beginning of the week, and you saw the dollar CAD strengthen as well as oil dropped. But then that definitely was the news of what's happening in India, really playing on that. Then we had this massive rally the other day, and it was just like, what's going on there? But there was OPEC announcement that they were going to keep everything under wraps, going to keep the production tight. So yeah, there was this move up here, and then we've had this second move yesterday as well. Just to pull it up, it's just pulling back now, but at the moment on my seasonal chart, it's just saying that it's going to go sideways. It'll dip a bit. But it was a really old chart that I was looking at. With time, it wants to go up in May.
Okay.
I'm looking for a bit of a rally in May. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
Bit of a
I think
push
some of
up.
this stuff. I think the oil market is interesting. I've been looking at some of the stocks in with oil, and they're fairly stationary. And maybe it is the Indian thing, but it's OPEC today, is it? We got an OPEC meeting.
They made an announcement yesterday, but what it is, it's getting Iran back on the boil, but in a controlled manner.
Right.
Because Iran's just likely, after all the US sanctions, it's just as likely to go gangbusters and just go.
Yeah.
It's production because, hey, labor's cheap and they can, and the more they pump, the more they make. So it's keeping a lid on that, and we'll see how they go. But you know, I had a text from a friend of mine who had a colleague regarding the aid going to India, and this colleague of my friend Vikram was actually in a meeting with the US Secretary of State and about 139 CEOs, and their push to get the crisis in India under control as soon as possible was amazing. And they're in a really bad way.
They really are.
Yeah. But as they said, you know, India being the size of that economy that it is, it will impact a lot of those big companies. So they're just saying, guys, you know, it's a combined effort here. So that goes to how that impacts oil, because
we're looking at what 6 to 10% of global GDP driven by India. So inevitably, as you say, that will affect what's going on with oil. Many of the countries in Europe are now kind of opening back up again to travel, so that may have a bit of a benefit. But you say that this particular period is pretty good, right? I mean, the energy stocks over here tend to do well on the first quarter. That tends to be the best quarter, and we've just seen just a little bit of weakness. And I'll show you some of this stuff actually just on my charts, just so we can reference it. In actual fact, first, let me show you. Let's have a look at this, and I just want to show if I can find my chat. There she goes. Oh, where are you hiding?
Thanks, John. Yeah, it was 101 million profit, Elon Musk's gain. Yes, I knew it was something stupid, but it wasn't from selling cars.
No, it wasn't from selling cars. No, you're absolutely right. So this is for Ben. Here you go, Ben. So this is the seasonal chart of the British pound, and you can see that this is May. This is May right here. So we tend to peak at May, start of May, and then a big drop. And if you look at this stuff here, it's gonna start to get quite confusing about where you're picking. But if you just look at this point right the way down to this point, before it kind of levels out, so that looks like the bottom down there. So it looks like around about July that the pound can be weak up until. So we're probably looking at a weaker pound there. What were we just discussing? I've got distracted by oil. Sorry, oil. Yes.
Oil. We're just going to flip it around.
Let's have a quick look at the seasonals in oil as well, and see what they suggest. So we're putting that on. Where are you? Seasonals in oil. There you go. Crude, light, sweet. So
I'll tell you what else I'm looking at the moment, and I've been having a little puddle in it, and I'm enjoying it because it moves neatly. Is copper. Oh,
okay, yeah. Copper would be interesting one to look at as well. So May, yeah, you're right. So we do tend to see a bit of an uptick, don't we? Right up until it looks like the middle of May before it gets a bit sticky.
Yeah, it's a bit bumpy, but you know, if you look at that, and obviously, you know, you'll have a bit of a pullback, and then look how it goes for the rest. You know, you're following those lines from where it is at the beginning of May right through. It does tend to, keep ticking up. So
Yeah.
how far up above, I do not know. But,
Well, let's have a look at copper as well.
yeah, now that's a really cute little. Now, why that's taken off, and I know the seasonals for copper are down at the moment.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not playing ball, and a lot of that's got to do with, what are those things that go in electric cars?
Oh, a nice battery.
That'd be it. What do you think is a major component in battery?
Acid.
If you were guessing.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah,
So
well, absolutely. Absolutely, and obviously, sort of like with the expansion that we've seen, with the economic expansion that we've seen, then copper tends to be a pretty good barometer for that. Let me just have a look at the chart on copper, because
go to a copper chart, honey.
I haven't looked at copper for too
it's
long.
So shiny. See, I'm attracted to everything that glitters and shiny. Gold, copper.
Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look at this on a longer term time frame here. Okay.
It's very respectable.
It is respectable. Just bringing in some. Yeah, a little bit of slowing down, isn't there, up here?
No, it depends on where you got in.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm looking on the weekly time frames first and foremost because of the COT data. You know, looking at that COT report. I'll tell you what's really interesting. I think is this bar here. I think this is the most interesting bar in this region. So let's just see what the levels are there. That one and that one there. Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see whether copper's actually under. I mean, I don't know what level you're looking at, Ainsley, but I'm looking at 4.38 on the futures here as the potential hold point. It needs to hold above there, and if it does, then it looks like it's still bullish for copper. But under that level, I wonder whether we might see a bit of drifting down in copper. The move has been similar to many other crazy things that we've seen going on in the last 2 years. And
yeah, but I can actually understand this one, Ash.
Yeah.
Move to copper and move to battery electric vehicles. I can understand that copper, that stuff that you can actually touch, feel, it's in production, that kind of thing. Yeah, I get my head around that a lot more. Than other financial instruments to be traded. So yeah, I've just been watching that and watching the demand for that increase as well. And yes, we've been hearing about the copper story. I think it's played such a backseat to everything else that's happened. And this is where I'm saying, like, go and look for the quiet little achievers that are that for me, I was looking at the copper story. We've been looking at it for a while. We had a bit of a, it went through a bit of a sideways movement, but the last couple of weeks, yeah, it's taken off again, and it has actually hit the ticker board quite nicely because of the increase in requirements for production.
I tell you what I think is interesting, Ainsley, is that this was the last high that we saw back in 2011, and then again towards the middle of 2011, after the financial crisis. So the top of the bull run after the financial crisis, after the last recession. So, if we're thinking about the business cycle, then after the last business cycle, this was the absolute highest point, and that's where we are now. Now, I know you're probably not playing this on longer term timeframes, but I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, but we also didn't have demand either.
Here.
Yeah, the demand back in 2011 for electric cars.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And of the like was nowhere like it is now. Platinum is interesting as well, Lewis. I've always been. It's just that the platforms I'm trading it on, a little expensive because it's not well traded. I have to go to yet another broker, and it's just like, oh my Lord, I've already got 4 accounts open as it is. So, and no, I don't like that whole copy thing. Don't talk to me about copy stuff. That does my head in. So yeah, copper is at a very interesting level right at the moment, but the demand and the structure and the fundamentals sitting right behind that, it's just ticking away really nicely.
How much of copper's usage versus production is being distributed to the electric car space?
A lot, because it's not just that, it's moving forward to things like, copper, like wind turbines, they require copper. So the wind farms, they need that, and it all goes into where are they going to store it? They go to store all the electricity that it all creates, not only from the production of that, it's also got to be stored in a battery. It's got to be stored somewhere, and all that stuff requires copper.
That's interesting. And also with this, does this drive the Aussie dollar?
Copper commodities, to a degree, yes.
I don't know what the distribution of GDP is for copper sales, but
no, I don't
Rio
either.
Tinto.
But Rio Tinto, yeah, they've got the copper mines up in Western Australia.
Yeah.
They're there. The other interesting thing, as I said, copper and nickel are required. Nickel, the largest nickel mine in the southern hemisphere, is in a tiny little Pacific country called New Caledonia. It's a French-owned province, by the way. But so all those kind of commodities, yes, where is it all going to go through? Probably through Aussie, through the, copper anyway. It's not iron ore or steel at the moment, which is a little bit off the Chinese agenda, by the way.
Yeah.
Nasty little trade. There is a little bit of biffo happening there in the background, unfortunately. But look, hopefully the boys can settle down. They just need.
Oh yeah, I mean they tend to eventually, don't they? So
yeah, they do. They do.
Take too much heat on that.
But it's been uncomfortable, and it's really impacted on our exports. The wine industry really copped it, and I think there were crabs and lobsters running around wharves and stuff like that. So in Australia at the moment, we can get really cheap seafood. I mean, our seafood, I guess, is comparatively cheap, but instead of going to the fish markets and getting lobster for $50-$60, we can get them for around 20 or 30 because they can't export them, which makes for a really yummy dinner. So so there's those kind of things, but the copper hasn't had quite the profile, even though it's had quite the trajectory. It hasn't had quite the profile that Bitcoin has, or why hasn't gold moved? And it has been, for gold not moving as much, it has come down to, okay, where are people putting their where are they investing their money? Where is it going if it's not going into gold? And that argument came up the other day as well. Obviously, people are diverting part of their portfolio into a faster moving currency, into a faster moving financial asset that's going to give them a faster return. If things came off a little bit on the Bitcoin, even on Ethereum or wherever, I think you'll see a bit more of a return to, the solid, reliable, shiny.
I completely agree, and I would have thought that if you're in the space, if you're buying cryptos for wealth protection, If that's your reason to buy cryptos, if that's your reason to buy Bitcoin, then it would make all the sense in the world to me to buy some gold alongside it. It doesn't make sense just to buy one asset, because then you're basically saying, I know which is the one and I know what the market's going to do, so I'm going all out in this one area, and I'm going to tell the market basically which way it's going to move and which is going to be the best asset class. So it wouldn't make any sense to me. What's that? Sorry?
I love your crystal ball.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're a sensible investor, even if you're aggressive, it would be sensible, I would have thought, to say, let's make sure that we've got diversification here, rather than going for speed. However, I understand the argument for going for speed, because many people just don't have huge amounts of capital. So inevitably, the best way to get larger capital is by just going for the speedy assets, and that is obviously being the crypto market to date. But the problem is, and this is my issue with it, is that eventually things, as I said earlier, pause. Regardless of, forget them coming down, which of course that could happen too, but eventually things pause. So the sort of area that we could possibly be entering into now might just chop people around and get them so frustrated with the price action that actually Bitcoin and the crypto market might actually send quite a few people to the poorhouse, because they're expecting another explosion to the upside in this area, and maybe we're not going to get one for a little while. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but maybe we just maybe it's time to take a break, because that's what markets do. I remember talking to my friend when he was saying, you want to get in, it's going to 100,000. And I say, markets just don't do that, mate. They eventually, you will see something which gets a bit sticky, because markets don't tend to go boom and without any kind of cutback, because liquidity needs to be created, and it looked to me like that's what we've got going on now. I mean, this is since February, so really since the start of February, or the middle of about middle of February, we haven't moved in price. We're in exactly the same place now. I know that's only a couple of months, but for 2 months the price of Bitcoin hasn't moved, and that might be where we are for a little while. So that would suggest to me that, if it comes down to the lower end, buy it. And if it goes, if it's somewhere in this area, be prepared to miss it.
Well, the other thing, Ash, is the Chinese government are really pushing ahead with their digital currency. It's going to be very strong. It's going to be very controlled. And it is, as you outlined previously, it's going to be one of those things that the central bank wants to be in control.
Yeah, and it's that's where things start to get a little bit hazy for me, because the central banks, I think they need cryptocurrencies. They need to step into the space. Whether they're ready to do that yet is questionable. Whether they want to wait for a bit more testing by all the clever kids that are inventing this stuff is questionable. And then ultimately, whether they're too late is the biggest question. Now,
I don't think they're too late. I don't think they're too late. I think to a degree they're watching what is happening. They are watching to see what kind of regulations they need to put in place. They've already started the scaremongering with auditing the major banks in America about is there any money laundering associated? Have the banks been complicit with money laundering in obviously conflict to regulations that will impact some of their clients? So there were, I think we saw that they announced that after close of New York trade the other Friday night, and boy, did it take a nosedive.
Oh yeah,
you know, Turkey has a problem. The second platform on running Bitcoin has collapsed as well, and they've gone. Turkish regulators have just gone, well, actually, boys and girls, game's over as far as they can, The guy who,
Turkey's obviously got its own issues, isn't it, with the lira being such a dog of a currency. Inevitably, people were putting their money somewhere else. But
to go somewhere else. But
the
yeah,
one thing I would say
about
Bitcoin and what's going on here as well is that if I'd managed to get in at this lower level which I almost did, by the way, but I didn't. So, but if I didn't, so, but if I got in down here, no, do you know what? I was thinking about it, and I thought, I've got to be prepared. I've got to be prepared to wait for my price, because I actually wanted it at 45, and it wasn't down at 45. So I thought, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to be disciplined and wait for 45. I'll wait, yeah, then bang. But looking at this now, it's gone bang. I'd be getting out here. You know, this would be the time for me to take profit. I wouldn't be sticking around with Bitcoin, and the reason I wouldn't be is because it hasn't got to 45. You know, until it gets to 45, and tests it and rejects it, then I wouldn't be holding on to my positions. And I can't be the only investor or trader in the world that would be thinking that. So I think there's going to be a few people taking some profits here, and for that reason, I do think it's got a chance of coming down again. Rather than taking off from this level. I could be completely wrong, of course. I don't know anywhere near as much as the probably majority of people that trade this, the crypto space know. But I do know charts, and I know that when it comes down to what I want to hold on to and what I'm prepared to miss, then it's still there for me with crypto. Until it's in a buy zone that I've defined, then I'm quite happy to miss the trade, and that's really my thinking here. But I'd be clearing out here personally.
Yeah, I'm just reading in the chat box. John has made a comment. There's a major plan to bring electricity from Australia to Singapore. Early stages, plenty of copper needed there. So there you go. Thanks for that, John. I hadn't heard that one, but that is definitely. So it's all these little things that you start to hear, piece together with copper, and yeah, the demand just keeps going. Very early stages. Look, I mean, if it takes as long as the jolly travel bubble, I'll tell you what, there was a big article in the Sydney Morning Herald this morning about Singapore is tapping on the door of Australia. It's just like, we're here, guys. Hello. Let us in. We're all good here. We're good. So they've opened a travel bubble with Hong Kong. Oh, we'll be opening a travel bubble on the 26th of May.
Very good.
Yeah, ours is obviously opened, and we were trying to organise a dinner with Mikey, Jeff, Paul, Jules, and me in Sydney, and it was just like, well, are you guys going there, or are we coming here, or are we going down to Tasmania, or where are we going? So it's just, we've got so many options. It's so exciting. But I think we hold on a little bit longer, and if Australia just gets their little act together with getting the vaccinations, it's just, we're behind the ball. I really dropped the ball on this one, and it didn't help that the EU actually stopped our first order of AstraZeneca. I think we had 3.8 million doses booked, and they stopped 3.1 million of those. So yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. But as soon as that, you can see everybody starting to get traction, and I heard that the UK and the US are looking at lifting restrictions. That all goes to the oil story, by the way. As soon as those things are getting a little bit more traction, and people are getting somewhere and light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not, an oncoming, we used to say in Australia, the XPT coming at you down the other end of the tunnel, which is the express train. It will start to have flow-on effects, and I think that's where you'll start to see a bit more of a move in the market. Things will start to happen.
Yeah, agreed. Well, let's wrap it up, eh? I think we're pretty much there. 20 past 9 now. I don't know if you're around tomorrow, but there's a very exciting event. John, hopefully you're still up for it, buddy. Is holding a quiz for the. You're on it. Nicely done. Have you done it as a PowerPoint?
A quiz.
Awesome, mate. And you know how to share screen and stuff. We can talk you through that. Yeah. So we have a quiz every week that Jeff and I write. But the winner of the quiz last week got to write this week's quiz. So John won last week. I think it was between him and Swee, and Swee decided to step aside and allow John to do the quiz. So John has written the quiz. I'm excited about it. Jeff and I are involved as from Scalper Joe. Oh, hi Scalper Joe. How you doing, buddy? Come into the show tomorrow, Scalper Joe. We're about to wrap up now. Come in tomorrow and you can take part in the quiz. And if you win the quiz.
I know what one of the top questions should be.
We can't ask it now, eh? Otherwise we're going to know the answer.
No, this is for John to put on. Let's choose a date. When will Ash get a haircut?
Well, that is a good question. And actually, we can all start to do. Let's do. What do they call it when you have to guess the number? What do they call it? A sweepstake. Let's do a sweepstake because I've actually got my haircut booked. So, yeah,
is the date 2021 or 2022?
it is. Yeah, I've had to, John. I've had to. It's starting to get out of hand. I'm starting to look like Wurzel Gummidge. So
7:23. Thank you, Lewis.
In a way, I don't want to, John. Believe me, but it is starting to go everywhere now. You know, I thought just a little tidy up rather than an absolute complete shearing. I would go back to short, but I've enjoyed this length, so I'm going to just ask my hairdresser to tidy up for me. But I couldn't get in with him. I've been trying to wait. I've been waiting for ages. I booked in a while ago, but they're so stacked, and he's really busy. So because he's really good. So yeah, it's not just yet, but you can have a sweepstake on what day it's going to be. It's coming up. Quarantine hairstyle. The hairstyle probably needs to go into quarantine. To be fair.
I think
anyway,
lockdown last year, I saw my blonde-headed children. One was purple and one was pink. So
yeah,
and considering we were locked down and they weren't going to school, at that stage I'd given up.
Yeah, of course, you got to have some lockdown locks. That's what I would say. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up, as I say. As a general overview in this session, I am actually going to say that I'm a little bit bullish on the dollar for the day and weak Nasdaq, and I'm not too sure about the FTSE. I'm undecided on the FTSE, which is why I haven't traded it, but assuming there's some potential weakness that could get dragged down, but the VIX is just going nowhere at this stage. So I want to see a pop with the VIX. Is going to be the signal for me. Scalper Joe just subscribed. Been looking for a bunch of cool people to like. Oh, mate, you are in the right place. We are the trading buddies. So you are
not
now.
Me, I'm substitute.
You are not a substitute, Ainsley. You are part of the Trading Buddies family.
Jeff is the main. You and Jeff are the, and I don't trade on an hourly chart anyway. So I just look at what's setting up that I'm liking. But like I said, I found this nice new shiny new toy to trade. Yeah. So the copper, we might be adding that in as well.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right. Fantastic. All right. So we'll be discussing copper every week with Ainsley from here on in. Scalper Joe, you are welcome aboard, mate. And actually, if you come into Zoom, you are at any time welcome, and more than you'll be invited to any time that you choose to come on mic and come on screen, share your charts, and we can discuss what you're looking at any time. That's what this show is based on. It's about trading buddies, and everybody will throw in to you know, and become a presenter whenever they like, whenever they choose. So look out for it. But John is tomorrow. John is the main man tomorrow. It won't be straight away, John. Probably about half 8 in the morning. We'll get to the quiz. But I'm looking forward to it. Jeff and I are contestants, so it's going to show. Yeah, so we're testing our knowledge against everybody tomorrow. It's going to be embarrassing.
I might jump in too, because I'm just, I love a quiz, and I'm not competitive.
Yeah, no, not at all. Come be a contestant. How many questions are there, John? By the way, awesome.
10.
Awesome. All right, I'm looking forward to it. All right, no music, by the way. That's the only thing we can't do, because we get banned from YouTube. So we're not allowed music. Probably not allowed video either.
Scalper Joe, you do 2-minute charts. I just feel heart pressure as it is.
Oh, Scalper Joe, you are more than welcome to come into 2-minute charts. That'd be amazing, mate. Yeah, it'd be good to get a different opinion from somebody who's trading in a different way. So you are very very welcome to come and talk about whatever it is you like.
Okay,
10
I'm gonna
questions,
let you
no
go.
music, no video. Fantastic. All right, guys. We'll see you
Okay,
in the
guys.
morning. Thanks,
Have
Ainsley.
fun.
As always, thanks everybody else for joining us and all your questions and everything else. And thanks to Angel for producing the show. We will see you
Thank
in the
you.
morning, as the
Bye
great
all.
man would say. Bye-bye.